I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white, staring at the bright, warm lights of my childhood home where a party was clearly in full swing. A party that my own father told me didn't exist. My chest felt like it was being crushed by a physical weight because this wasn't just any party. It was the celebration for the one thing I had sacrificed 5 years of my life to achieve, yet I was sitting in the dark outside like a stranger, while the rest of my family laughed and toasted inside. How do you even begin to process the fact that your own parents have effectively erased you from the biggest milestone of your life? I need you to listen to this and tell me honestly, would you have walked through those front doors and confronted them, or would you have driven away and never looked back? Because I'm still not sure if what I did next was justified, or if I finally just snapped after years of being the dependable one. To understand how I ended up sitting in my car in the driveway of a house I wasn't welcome in, you have to understand the dynamic of my family. My father, Marcus, is a man who values optics above everything else, and my younger brother, Leo, is the golden child who can do no wrong even when he's doing everything wrong. I'm the eldest, the one who always got the straight A's, the one who worked 2 jobs in college, and the one who eventually took over the struggling family logistics business when my dad's health started to decline 5 years ago. When I stepped in, the company was 6 figures in debt and hemorrhaging clients. My dad was devastated, and he told me back then, with tears in his eyes, that if I could save the business, it would be the greatest legacy our family ever had. I poured my soul into that company. I skipped vacations, I worked 80-hour weeks, and I navigated us through a global supply chain crisis that should have buried us. I didn't do it for the money, though the money eventually became good. I did it because I wanted my father to finally look at me the way he looked at Leo, with genuine pride and a sense of shared victory. Leo, meanwhile, has always been the free spirit. That's the polite term my parents use. In reality, he's 30 years old and has never held a job for more than 6 months. Every time he failed, my dad was there to catch him, usually using the profits I was generating from the business to bail him out of some new entrepreneurial venture that inevitably crashed and burned. I never complained because I figured that as long as I was the one keeping the roof over everyone's heads, my value was understood. Last month, I finally closed the biggest deal in the history of our company, a merger that tripled our valuation and allowed my father to officially retire with a massive nest egg. This was it, the finish line. To celebrate, my dad told me he wanted to host a small family dinner on Saturday night to mark the occasion. I was thrilled. I even bought a vintage bottle of scotch, his favorite, to give to him as a thank you for trusting me with his legacy. But then, 2 days before the dinner, my dad called me and sounded incredibly awkward. He told me that he was feeling under the weather and that we should probably just cancel the dinner. He said, "It's nothing serious, just a little bug, but I think I just need a quiet weekend to rest. We'll do something to celebrate you later, okay?" I was disappointed, but I told him I understood and to get some rest. I spent Friday night catching up on sleep and Saturday catching up on chores. Around 8:00 p.m. on Saturday, I realized I'd left my laptop at the office, and since I needed to prep some transition documents for Monday, I decided to drive over and grab it. The office is only 10 minutes from my parents' house. As I was driving back, I saw a familiar car turn onto their street. It was my Aunt Sarah's car. Then I saw my cousin's truck. My heart started to race, and a cold pit formed in my stomach. I pulled onto their street and saw the entire curb lined with cars. The house was glowing. There were professional caterers carrying trays through the side gate. There was a giant banner visible through the front window that said, "Congratulations on the new chapter." I sat there for 20 minutes, just watching. I saw Leo standing on the back deck, holding a beer, surrounded by our cousins, laughing and holding court. I saw my father, looking perfectly healthy and radiant, hugging his brother. I felt like I was watching a movie of a life I was supposed to be in, but I had been edited out. I checked my phone, thinking maybe I'd missed a "hey, we're back on" text, but there was nothing. Just the silence of a man who had been lied to. It wasn't a small family dinner that got canceled. It was a massive celebration that I was intentionally excluded from. So that is the situation I found myself in, sitting in the dark, watching my own success being toasted by people who didn't contribute a single hour of labor to it. Before I tell you how I handled the confrontation and the fallout that tore my family apart, I want you to pause right now. If you found out your parents threw a party for your biggest achievement and told you not to come, what would be your first move? Would you go inside or would you leave? Let me know in the comments, because I need to know if my reaction was as insane as my mother claims it was. I didn't drive away. I couldn't. I got out of the car, clutching that bottle of expensive scotch, and I walked up to the front door. I didn't knock. I just walked in. The noise of the party hit me like a physical wall. People were everywhere. When I walked into the living room, the music didn't stop like in the movies, but the people near me certainly did. My Aunt Sarah saw me first, and her face went pale. "Oh, honey," she whispered, "we didn't think you were coming." I didn't say a word to her. I walked straight through the crowd toward the kitchen, where I knew my father would be. I found him standing near the kitchen island, showing Leo a gold watch. A watch I recognized. It was the one he always said he'd give to his successor. He was giving it to Leo. My father looked up, and for a second I saw pure, unadulterated fear in his eyes, followed quickly by a mask of annoyance. "What are you doing here?" he asked, his voice low. Not "I'm glad you're feeling better," or surprise, just "what are you doing here?" I set the bottle of scotch on the counter with a heavy thud. "I thought you were sick, Dad," I said, my voice shaking despite my best efforts. "I thought the dinner was canceled." My mother rushed over then, trying to grab my arm to lead me away. "It's just a little reunion, sweetheart," she lied, her eyes darting around the room to see who was listening. "We didn't want to bother you with it, since you've been working so hard. We just wanted Leo to have a night where he felt included, since he's been feeling a bit down lately about the merger." I looked at her, then at the banner that clearly celebrated the new chapter of the business I had saved. "A reunion?" I asked. "On the night we were supposed to celebrate the merger I spent 5 years killing myself for, and you're giving him the watch." Leo had the audacity to smirk and say, "Don't be so dramatic, man. It's just a party. You're always so obsessed with credit." That was the moment I broke. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I just looked at my father and said, "I'm done." I was going to stay on as CEO for the next 3 years to ensure the transition went smoothly, as per the merger agreement. But there's a clause in my contract that allows me to resign with full equity if there's a change in the family's good faith involvement. I'm resigning tonight, effective immediately. My father's face went from annoyance to ghost white. "You can't do that," he stammered. "The buyers only signed because you were at the helm. If you walk, the valuation drops, and the whole deal could collapse." I picked up the scotch I'd brought, turned around, and walked toward the door. I told him over my shoulder, maybe Leo can handle the transition. Since he's the one getting the watch and the party, I'm sure he's got it all figured out. The aftermath was a total explosion. My phone didn't stop ringing for 48 hours. My mother sent me dozens of texts calling me selfish and saying I was ruining your father's retirement over a misunderstanding about a guest list. But it wasn't about a guest list. It was about the fact that they wanted the fruits of my labor without having to acknowledge the laborer, because it made Leo feel inferior. It's been 3 weeks now. I haven't rescinded my resignation. The buyers are panicking, and the legacy my father was so worried about is currently crumbling because without my oversight, the messy reality of our books is coming to light. My father reached out yesterday not to apologize, but to ask if I would come home for dinner so we could fix this as a family. I told him I'm busy. I'm busy starting my own firm, one where I don't have to hide my success to protect someone else's ego. Looking back, I realized that some people will never see your worth, no matter how much you do for them, because your success is a mirror that reflects their own failures. I lost my family that night, but for the first time in my life, I feel like I actually found myself. I stopped being a supporting character in Leo's story and started being the lead in mine. If you've ever been the reliable one who gets taken for granted, let this be your sign to stop waiting for a thank you that's never coming. Like this video if you think I was right to walk away and leave them to deal with the mess, and subscribe for more stories about people finally standing up for themselves. Share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. Did I go too far by tanking the merger, or did they get exactly what they deserved? I'll see you all in the next story.